The setting is idyllic, almost like a painting, a paradisiacal beach with crystal clear water and golden sand stretching as far as the eye can see. The sound of the waves gently crashing in the background creates a sense of peace and tranquility, while the sun shines brightly, warming the atmosphere and illuminating the vastness of the ocean. The gentle breeze that moves the palm trees along the shore adds a touch of serenity, making the place a true refuge from the modern world. It's the kind of setting that seems perfect for a day of rest, away from the pressures of everyday life. But like everything in life, what seems perfect isn't always what it really is. At the center of this paradise stands Livvy Dunne. The camera follows her as she walks towards the sand, and her presence is impossible to ignore. She is wearing a stylish swimsuit that seems to be the perfect blend of elegance and comfort. The perfect cut of the suit, the way it fits her body with ease, conveys not only a sense of fashion, but also confidence. Livvy, with her easy smile, reflects the confidence of someone who knows her worth and feels comfortable in her own skin. But as the camera focuses on her eyes, we can see something else behind that smile, a quiet uneasiness that begins to form. Livvy approaches the water, where the small waves kiss the sand and the sea breeze plays with her hair. She takes a deep breath, as if absorbing the energy of the place, trying to distance herself from her commitments, her busy workout routine, and her endless interactions on social media. For her, this is a moment of freedom. The feeling of being in tune with nature, far from any pressure, seems to be exactly what she needs. Sometimes all you need is a moment. Just you and the sea, she thinks, reflecting silently. What seems like a simple day of rest by the sea, however, hides much more than it seems, but the calm of the scene does not last long. Livvy, in her moment of introspection, notices something strange on the horizon. The camera, in a subtle movement, begins to focus on a distant figure, a presence that seems to be observing her from afar. At first glance, it is just a silhouette, but there is something in the way this figure positions itself, as if it is aware of her presence and is waiting for her. The atmosphere, which until then had been perfect, suddenly begins to change. The music, which had been soft and calm, gains an increasing intensity. Something is coming, but what exactly? Livvy looks away for a moment, trying to convince herself that she is just imagining things. But something inside her tells her that this is not the case. Maybe it is just a coincidence, or maybe the feeling of being watched is a reflection of her own insecurity about being in a place where she feels vulnerable. But as the wind blows stronger and the figure in the distance seems to get closer, a disturbing thought invades her mind. Can I really find peace here? Or will what is chasing me reach me even in paradise? The peace she so desperately seeks now seems further away than ever. What seemed like a simple day at the beach is turning into something much more complex and unpredictable. This sudden change in the atmosphere leaves a sense of curiosity and apprehension. What will Livvy do in the face of this? Will she give in to the pressure that seems to be growing around her, or will she find a way to overcome the internal tensions that have perhaps been haunting her since before she arrived on that beach? The story, which begins with the promise of tranquility, is now about to reveal a much deeper and more challenging layer than anyone could have imagined. The mystery is revealed. The day, which seemed like the perfect moment to relax, quickly turns into something more intense. Livvy decides to move on, trying not to let herself be influenced by the strange feeling of being watched. She joins the group of friends who are waiting for her near the water, trying to regain the lightness of the moment. The camera follows her movement, capturing the energy of a group sharing laughter and fun. Livvy, with her unique style, stands out not only for her swimsuit, but also for her natural ability in water sports. With each maneuver in the surf or in the games of beach soccer, she displays an impressive confidence and lightness, as if the whole world were off her radar. But behind this relaxed demeanor, something is unfolding. The camera focuses on Livvy as she watches the others having fun, but soon notices a distant presence that gives her pause. The same mysterious figure from before, now closer, seems to be approaching the sand. Instead of disappearing as she expected, this person moves even closer, and Livvy begins to feel a growing discomfort. She tries to stay focused on the fun, however, the feeling of being watched lingers, accompanied by a growing anxiety that slowly infiltrates her thoughts. The light and relaxed atmosphere soon gives way to a silent tension. Livvy realizes that, even with the presence of her friends and the beauty around her, something is wrong. Her mind begins to wander, remembering the commitments that await her, the expectations of her followers, and the incessant demands that surround her. In her mind, a struggle begins to form. On one side, the desire to be just a young woman enjoying the sea, and on the other, the weight of being a public figure, constantly observed and judged. The flashes of the cameras, the pressure to remain perfect, all of this begins to infiltrate her moment of rest. Every smile she gives, every movement she makes, seems to be minutely analyzed by someone, perhaps the mysterious figure herself that she cannot ignore. Livvy tries to focus on having fun, splashing around in the water and playing with her friends, but it's impossible not to notice the figure's constant gaze. The words of a close friend, which have been so relaxed until then, begin to be distorted by the mounting pressure. "Is everything okay, Livvy? You seem a little out of tune today," he asks, trying to lighten the mood, but his voice sounds distant. Livvy smiles, trying to hide her concern, but the tension in her chest becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. The internal conflict intensifies. She wants to feel free, but something or someone is blocking that freedom. This is when the external conflict enters the scene. The distant figure finally approaches and reveals his intentions. He is either an admirer or someone who has been trying to contact Livvy through social media. The conversation starts out friendly, but soon the situation takes an unexpected turn. The person, clearly more invasive than Livvy imagined, begins to make comments about her appearance, about the way she should behave in public, and even about what she shares with her followers. This exchange of words, which initially seemed like a simple conversation, begins to become a source of discomfort for Livvy, who feels the weight of the pressure from others on her shoulders. Livvy, now visibly uncomfortable, tries to handle the situation with class, trying to remain calm. But something inside her begins to break. In an unthinking move, she moves away from the group, going to a more secluded corner of the beach where she can breathe more freely. The feeling of being surrounded by external expectations, by the constant gaze of others, makes her question her own identity. Who is she really? The laid-back girl who is there to have fun, or the public figure who is constantly judged by her followers? It is at this point that the conflict, until then internal, begins to take on more visible and dangerous contours. The contrast between the idyllic setting and the emotional turmoil Livvy faces becomes stark. The beach, which once represented a haven, now feels more like a stage where rules are dictated by external forces. And as Livvy struggles to regain control of her freedom, the viewer is left with a disturbing question. How far will she go to regain the peace she so desires? What will happen when the ghosts of the past and the expectations of others become impossible to ignore? The tension is already in the air, and the answer seems increasingly distant. The sun begins to set, tinting the sky orange and pink, but instead of bringing a sense of relief, the change in light seems to reflect Livvy's inner transformation. After moments of anguish and frustration, she decides to take a step back and reflect on everything that is happening. The external pressure, the constant stares and expectations seem to have finally found a way to deeply affect her inner peace. She walks alone along the beach, the sound of the waves now almost muffled by the confusion in her mind. Her thoughts turn to her journey here, how between the flashes and the selfies, she lost her sense of who she really is. Deep down, Livvy knows she needs to find a balance, but she also begins to understand that the real challenge lies not in trying to please others, but in pleasing herself. She sits by the water, her feet gently touching the sand as the sea spreads out at her feet. The wind now feels more comforting, as if nature is offering her a pause, a moment of reflection. The anguish she felt earlier in the day begins to give way to understanding, to self-knowledge. Livvy takes a deep breath, allowing the fresh ocean air to flood her lungs. As if she is freeing herself from the emotional weight that has been weighing her down, she closes her eyes for a moment, trying not to think about the pressures of social media or the expectations of those around her. I am more than my posts, more than what is expected of me, she thinks. This moment of introspection in which she looks inside herself is a turning point. Livvy realizes that, despite all the chaos that her public life brings, she can choose how to react and what to truly value. She doesn't have to be perfect, she doesn't have to bow to the image that others have of her. True freedom lies in being authentic, in accepting yourself fully, without getting lost in the expectations of a life that is not yours. But of course, the journey of self-discovery is not always straightforward. In the distance, we can still see the mysterious figure who now slowly moves away, as if he's fulfilled his role, not a real threat but a metaphor for the external pressures Livvy faces. She smiles, but this time it is not the nervous smile of before, it is a smile of acceptance. Livvy understands that she cannot control everything around her, but she can control how she reacts. She chooses to distance herself, both physically and emotionally, from that which unbalances her. In doing so, she not only regains her inner peace, but also a renewed sense of personal power. As the day draws to a close, Livvy stands and walks towards the sea, her head held high and her gaze unwavering. She is no longer trying to hide or conform to what others expect of her. Instead, she is embracing her true essence. The sea, which once seemed like a symbol of unattainable tranquility, now represents the immensity of her possibilities. She finally gives herself permission to be who she is, without fear or shame. The camera follows her steps on the sand, capturing the reflection of the setting sun in her eyes, as if the light of nature has merged with the light that has been reborn within her, before leaving the beach. Livvy turns one last time to the horizon, a look of gratitude on her face. It's not a look of farewell, but a look of understanding. What once seemed like a challenge now becomes a celebration of authenticity. She knows that when she returns to the real world, the hardships and pressures will always be present, but she also knows that she now has the power to choose what truly matters. This is my moment. I own my story, she thinks, her voice calm and confident as it resonates with the words. With the sound of the waves and the soft light of the late afternoon, the film ends, leaving the audience with a deep sense of reflection. Livvy Dunne is not just the image the world sees, she is much more than that. And at the end of the day, she has found what really matters, being true to herself, anywhere, anytime.